What's up, everyone? Welcome to Believe in Rams. Erin Coscarelli back with you. And we have an awesome guest today, and the countdown is officially on. We start Rams training camp on Thursday. So, what better guest than Trent Frey? Trent is the performance science coordinator. We'll get into that in a moment. And he is also the strength and conditioning associate. We had strength and conditioning coach Justin Lovett on for our last episode, and he was so insightful. And one of the things, of course, he mentioned about you, Trent, is that you operate like it's 2045. So you take a peek into the future. It's really cool to, I'm sure, hear one of your coworkers, one of your colleagues speak so highly of you. How are you? And 3 days out from training camp, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Erin. I really appreciate it. It's good right now. Everything is in a good spot. The coaches are just getting in today, players in tomorrow, and we're kind of off and rolling right away once they get in with a kind of a movement eval for the guys and big team meeting to kick it off. And then yeah, first day on the grass with coaches and everybody on Wednesday. So exciting time of year for sure, and football season is back.
Yeah. Well, tell for people at home, we live in Los Angeles. I feel like everyone in LA loves the health and wellness component. And what better person to sort of biohack it than what the Rams are doing? One of the most, legendary NFL franchises. What exactly is a performance science coordinator? Can you take us through a little bit what it is exactly that you do for the
Sure.
Rams?
Yeah, so kind of a big global view of what my role is a lot of it is managing on-field metrics and then in the gym metrics as well. So as you mentioned, I'm a dual role, sports science and strength and conditioning. Um, with that, so half of my days or half of my job is the strength conditioning coach. So writing programs for me personally, it's the quarterbacks and the defensive mid, so your inside and outside linebackers. And then the other side of the job is performance science. It's a fun opportunity for me to get to work amongst basically everybody in the Rams organization. So everybody from obviously the strength and conditioning staff to the sports medicine staff with our dietitian, and then a lot with the coaching staff as well, trying to plan out practices during training camp, obviously upcoming right now, maybe
Mhm.
with the coaching staff, what those days look like, from how they're breaking up the individual periods to the team periods to how many plays we might be running on that certain day. There's certain objectives that we're trying to accomplish and attack, and it's all strategically planned and periodized from our side of things. And then for us, it's trying to work in hand and educating not only the players and the coaches on why we're trying to accomplish certain things, certain objectives in that matter. And our coaching staff here is phenomenal. They have the buy-in from some of the things that we're trying to get done as well, because you could have the perfect plan from a sports science approach, but if you don't have the key stakeholders invested, and that's being the coaching staff, then that's really where it's going to end, is just the planning portion of it, and not the execution.
Right. Yeah. And I imagine communication is important because there are so many factors that you kind of have to run through the pipeline from Coach McVay to Les Snead to everybody involved. And it's all hands on deck. And before we kind of get into the Rams, how did you get here? Because they took you from the Kings. You were at UCLA, then you went to the Kings, and now is this your second year with the Rams? And how has this year felt for you in terms of more seamless transition?
Yeah, so this is my second year with the Rams. Um, it feels light years different for sure. Just from an anxiety standpoint, is definitely down a little bit of your first training camp coming into a role like that. You really don't know all the small details and the nuances of what the day-to-day action is. So everything's new for you at that time. So going into the second year, you could probably see some of maybe where the roadblocks or the hurdles, or as a performance staff, we always talk about hot spots in the schedule where those things pop up. You can kind of maybe predict a few of those more than you could have in your first year. But yeah, so going all the way back, I started at UCLA, got my master's degree there, and I spent 4 years with the football team there. Started as graduate assistant,
Cool.
and then moved into a full-time role with them. During that time there, I had the opportunity to go and work with the Los Angeles Kings. I spent 4 years with them as the assistant strength coach, and then moved into the head strength coach role for my last 3 years there. And then during that time, this opportunity with the Rams came about as well. And it was everything that I was hoping for. Is a great organization to work for, stepping into the performance staff, very collaborative staff that's really in my opinion, sort of at the front end of things, and communication is extremely high. So I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity that came about for me and myself, or for me and my family.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different sport. Is your job, just because hockey is obviously it's so different, is your job massively different when you transition a completely different sport, or are the keynotes still sort of at the forefront?
I think that training athletes at the end of the day is always training athletes, and people that do it at a high level, as long as you understand the demands of the games, you could probably navigate throughout different sports in your time. Now, there's certain things with football culture and hockey culture and different things that you have to learn by being in it, or maybe you were a player sometime during your career as a young athlete as well. So you pick up those things. But I think the job itself is not vastly different. There's certain areas that we emphasize because of the demands of the sport that are different than hockey. And then there's also certain things where, like, logistical planning is a major change for me, coming from hockey where it was a 82 regular season game. And then obviously with football, we're playing once a week. So there's things like that are vastly different. Those are probably the biggest differences, is just the amount of games that you have in the season and what the scheduling looks like. But at the end of the day, the training athletes portion of it, it's not completely new for me as well, because coming from the 4 years at UCLA, I had sort of that background as when I first started my career.
Yeah. So interesting. I mean, this is what I love the most about sports. It's like the business model, the components of sort of extracting knowledge and applying it and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And since you just mentioned the schedule, we got to get into it, because the Rams grind, it is officially here. I can't believe it's like less than 2 months with the NFL officially starting. How does your position or your performance science approach shift or change from OTAs to now we're here training camp to the regular season? Is there a massive shift in your planning and strategizing, Trent?
Yeah, so OTAs for us, it's broken up into the 3 phases, and throughout the phases, you have a decent handle on applying certain stressors at certain times for those players. And I stole it from somebody else, but someone who I picked it up from, they said that whoever controls the stressors kind of controls the team at that point. So as we're shifting into training camp now, it's really trying to shift your emphasis for the stress of the games that are upcoming and the demands of the games. So during the OTAs for us, we're not on the field as long as we are during these training camp sessions. So that for the players is a major stressor. Now you're going to be having a lot less off days throughout there. So the Rams, we're working the Monday through Thursday during that off-season program, and then the guys have Friday, Saturday, Sunday to recover. Now going into this training camp and into the regular season, it's a lot of 7 days a week of the guys are going straight through with their player off days sprinkled in throughout. So trying to just, from the sports science side, now we're starting to ramp up the intensity. We're trying to get to some more game demands. The off-season program was definitely a great foundational step during that period. And now everything just kind of ramps up into high gear for our player side of things, of what they need to accomplish on the grass.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had a very cool off season from your lens. You guys, Kevin Demoff and company decided to do the draft at the LAFD Air Ops. As an LA native, and my mom was one of people who, unfortunately was evacuated. She's fine. It felt like such a cool thing to sort of get behind. And then you guys had Minicamp in Maui. Can you touch on what Maui camp was like for you guys? I mean, were you stoked? And just, it was like, I couldn't believe you guys got to go there for mandatory Minicamp.
Yeah, it was a really cool trip. It was really quick. Obviously, we leave on a Monday and we're back in LA on a Thursday. But I think it was great for our players to get to go there, put on a kids camp one of the days, sign autographs for a lot of the fans that were down there on another day as well, and just get to interact with the community. Kind of hopefully grow the game of football down there. Football is huge down there already, but getting for especially some of those young middle school, high school football players that were there, seeing them interact with our players. It was pretty cool just to be able to observe that from afar.
Yeah, I mean, it's and by the way, giving back to Hawaii tourism, because that was your partnership, and Hawaii also, suffered devastation with their fires. So it's cool as a fan when the NFL can use its platform to help and do some good. You know, again, we have this, the season is so fast approaching, and one of the things that the Rams kind of struggled with, certainly in the beginning of the season, were injuries to the O line, and you had some injuries to the wide receivers, in Cooper and Puka. When for you, Trent, like, where does your position begin when you see a player, he's coming off, let's say, a major injury, a torn ACL, an Achilles, let's say? What is the science behind getting them back to game speed, not just physically, but also mentally?
Yeah, so injuries were a huge part of it every single year. You know that they're going to happen with the game of football. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to get the injuries that occur. So ours seemed like they were front loaded last year for sure, which as a first year staff member, never an easy situation to kind of step into that way. But what it did was it kind of helped me jump right into it with the collaboration with our medical staff for sure. So injury occurs right away. Athlete is going to be working very closely with our medical staff, the doctors, the physiotherapists, the athletic trainers, and they're really that first line for the athlete to start their return to play process. Sometime throughout that process is where I'll get to come into the planning as well, and that's usually when we're starting to talk about this player is going to start their on-field progressions, their running progressions. They can get back on the grass, and then I'll work with our athletic training staff as far as giving certain targets for certain key metrics out in the field that we get through our GPS system. We kind of plan that out, our daily, our weekly totals, our monthly, if it's a longer term plan. And then sometime throughout there's going to be this kind of handoff period where it goes from the medical staff to the strength and conditioning staff. And same thing, we've built out this player run builder, and the key metrics we kind of lay out there. It's always here's what we had planned, here's what we accomplished, and then you're checking back in to see how the progressions are going with the athletes. So for me, it's a really exciting kind of collaboration to be a part of, because you're working with both medical and the strength staff so closely within each of those return to play processes. So you feel like you're hopefully playing a key contributor role in that.
Yeah, and that's so interesting. So for people listening, you're essentially like the conduit of the medical staff, and then you kind of try to convey that to the like strength and conditioning performance staff, and like keep in touch with them, and then the coaches. I mean, it's interesting. You must be, having to download and recite information all day long. What was there a catalyst that got you into this? I mean, why were you so fascinated by it? And then I think we'll get into real quick, because I think people at home are interested. What is some knowledge that you have in the pro sports world that the casual, regular person like myself can extract? But we'll get into that in a moment. But for you, why were you fascinated about this particularly unique path?
So I think when I first started in my career, there wasn't a lot of true sports science roles. As a young strength coach, when I was at UCLA, I just got tasked by my boss, who's the head strength coach, as, hey, can you run our GPS units for the practices, for the workouts, for everything like that? And I had never used them before. I started from ground one, just basic stuff. And I kind of really enjoyed that side of things, because for us, it gave a really cool insight as far as what stressors are actually, we had an idea of what was going on the field. Until you measure it, you don't really know what matters. So for us, for me, it was kind of this unveiling of the curtain of, okay, this is what's actually going on in the field. Did that for my time at UCLA, we were using Catapult, just a GPS company at that time. I then was reaching out to people that were in the LA area because I wanted to learn more about it. At that time, I was reaching out to anybody that was in different sports. And I ended up connecting with what was my boss at the LA Kings, because I knew that they were also using it on the ice. So I just wanted to see kind of what are the key metrics that they were looking at, not because it's going to be identical to football, but just a different lens. Sometimes I really enjoyed learning from other people in other professions. Long story short, ended up switching jobs and transitioning there too. But that's how I kind of got my start into the world of sports science. And there was no formal education. I don't have a sports science degree. My degrees are both exercise science based, and a lot of my background is all strength conditioning. But it was something that I got exposed to early on by just tasked by my boss. Learned to really enjoy that side of things, and have just tried to obviously continue to evolve based on what the field is or what the demands are of your staff.
No, I mean it's such coveted information and such a cool position because we were talking before we jumped on, and so many, and we'll maybe if we have time we'll get into it. So many sort of devices and tech. There's such a mixture of wanting to sort of be adjacent to the pro sports world. Like, what are pro athletes doing that seems tested and it's working, that the average casual person can implement in their own routine? So you're in such a cool, like, and you're in the LA market. I think it's fascinating to ask these kinds of questions, which again, I'm grateful you made the time. It's mayhem officially ahead of the season. So the fact that we're getting Trent to jump on really quickly and speak on the team, speak on his experience, it's very cool. Is there a way you help manage? I mean, you have what, 17, plus games. You guys are going to be traveling second most miles in the NFL, of course, kind of getting the tax of being a West Coast team. How do you help players manage cumulative fatigue and navigate it when it matters most, especially because you guys are going to be, putting in some miles this season?
Yeah, and that's truly a huge part of what we're doing is trying to gather as much information as we can around these guys to minimize stress at certain times. There are certain times where you want to stress the body, and then you need to recover adequately to have the response that you want to, so these guys can go out and they can perform come game day and hopefully be healthy while they're doing it. But there's tons of different stressors. I mean, these guys, they're feeling stress from the field, from the weight room, from family stress that might be happening, all these different avenues. So for a lot of that, each of those has different pieces of technology that we utilize to manage stress on the field. We've kind of touched on already with GPS. In the weight room, there's these devices that are force plates that the guys stand on and they jump, and they give us tons of metrics that we can look at based on certain times of the year that we'll be focusing on key metrics. If it's early in the off-season program and we're in a max strength block, we might be looking at something then later on in season. There's different ways to look at that. There's a device that we use that attaches to the rack, and it tells us how fast the bar speed is moving when guys are in the weight room and they're lifting. We do our dietitians weigh in, weigh outs are very easily obtained, as well as body fat compositions. And then we do wellness questionnaires to the guys throughout the season. We'll do those once a week. And the world of wearables is becoming ever more popular and definitely in the mainstream right now. And there's tons of different options from those, from Oura rings to Whoop bands to Apple Watches, and everyone's got the one that they like the most. But I think in that space for the casual, whether it's a weekend warrior or even some athletes, it gives good insight just as far as a lot of them based around the guys. A lot of our guys are interested in what their sleep looks like. So I think a lot of that has to do with just ingraining good habits and not necessarily what the numbers mean all the time. And that's where we step in and we can hopefully educate these guys if they feel that they want to learn more about it. But it's trying to show you that, okay, I did these few things. I went to bed at this time. I'm eating well during these periods. My recovery scores are going up. I'm able to I feel better on the field, different things like that. I can focus longer when we're in the meetings, whatever it might be. So those are popular for the world of sports as well as your weekend warriors. So I think that's kind of a cool trend that's it's not really new by any means, but it's something that more and more people are being involved in. I'm sure a lot of them see some of them, their favorite player are wearing certain wearables, or they're advertising them. So they're probably drawn to that as well.
Yeah, yeah. To be respectful of time, I wanted to ask, one quick or two more questions. With you being on the cutting edge of elite performance, what is one recovery method that you swear by that the average person could potentially incorporate in their daily routine?
Yeah, so I've wore a Whoop band. I currently wear an Oura ring. I think that side of things is interesting. The sleep aspect is great. Working in football, especially during training camp, sleep is a premium whenever you can get it, where you can get it. Got a 5-month-old at home right now too, so there's another layer of challenge trying to get the sleep on top of that, which is always fun and exciting. But I think a lot of it is to do with what habits can you consistently do. Anybody can jump on the latest trend and do this for a month, and they see great results, and then all of a sudden it gets pushed to the wayside. So I think it's whatever fits within your schedule, your routine. For me, it's the Oura ring to trap the sleep. I enjoy sauna. Try and get that in a couple times a week. Early morning sunlight, avoiding screens, and different things at night, and that'll play into your sleep as well. But for me, it's very basic stuff, but hopefully stuff that I can just continue to do every single day over and over, and kind of have that compound interest effect, not necessarily what's the quickest, easiest trend that I can jump on.
Right. And what's really cool about you is you're essentially a sports scientist. So you track data and then you decide whether it works, whether it doesn't work. And that's what's really cool is, these routines or these implemented, biohacks can change, or they can, I just think that that's what I like the most is what can we learn from this? How can we advance? How can we move the ball forward? And in the last question, what would you say is the next frontier in sports science that for you, Trent, excites you the most?
So I think that we're consistently trying to measure more on the competitive arena, whatever that is, whether it's on the field, on the ice, on the basketball court, whatever that might be. Can continue to try and gather more and cleaner information, cleaner data, to paint the picture around what these athletes are feeling, and then from there, then the professionals can hopefully make the targeted approach as far as how to prepare them for those instances, or how to allow them to recover from those. That's always going to be one thing. And then the part of it that's really hard and maybe not possible to measure right now is kind of that player IQ. So the how they process the game. You hear people talk about it all the time, where player X might not be the fastest or the strongest, but he thinks the game really well. Whether how they would ever get to the point of managing that, and obviously there's analytics departments that are in charge of those things too, but trying to be able to quantify that information a little bit more, because you always see players that are, like I said, not always the fastest or strongest, but they've got long, successful careers in their professional sports because they think the game at a higher rate than the guy next to him that might be more physically gifted.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I love this. I could have these conversations all day long, and we will let you go because we know you're busy. 5-month-old at home. You just came from meetings with the Rams, but appreciate what you had to say. I love that you also tipped your cap, not on this, but we spoke about working with Sean McVay, and it's kind of like you need someone to support it, and it seems as though Sean McVay is such a great, I mean, the way the team speaks so highly of him. I mean, Devontae was singing his praises at OTAs, the last OTAs, and it's cool that you guys all rally around each other, and it's going to be a very exciting season. Rams fans are so, we're high anticipation, and again, thank you for the time, Trent. Good luck. We'll see you at training camp.
Thanks, Erin. Appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thank you.